Welcome back to Theoretical Nonsense. Today we're going to be discussing dolphins, starfish, the best apology candy, and the Amazons. Stay tuned. Welcome to Theoretical Nonsense, the Big Bang Theory watch-along podcast. No PhD required.
We're the podcast that recaps all the episodes of the Big Bang Theory. No spoilers.
So hop into your favorite spot,
Make yourself a grasshopper,
and enjoy the ride. Hello there, Ryan.
Hello, Rob.
Are you ready to talk the Justice League Recombination?
I am, but I'm sad.
I think I know why you're sad. No Christmas episodes.
No
holiday
Christmas.
episodes.
It was holiday, but it's kind of a lackluster holiday.
New Year's. Was that really a holiday?
It was kind of a brush off to the holidays, but I feel like you have to do one. You have to do Halloween or Christmas, and hopefully Thanksgiving's in there. And if all you do is New Year's, something's gone wrong with the year. Like, that's just disappointing.
2010 was a disappointing year, apparently.
Apparently, man. Yeah, I remember 2010.
That's
I was getting
year
a
they
divorce.
skipped the holiday episode.
That was Christmas was canceled.
Well, what did you think of the episode?
I liked it. It wasn't my favorite, but it was solid. It had some funny parts. Some jokes fell a little bit flat, but overall, I enjoyed it. There's some interesting characterization there that I enjoyed. And I like Zach. I really like Zach. So I enjoy having him in the show.
I really like him, too. It's always nice to have him back.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought it was a fun episode. I like that they actually have things to do on New Year's, that they weren't just like losers that stay home. It was more like, hey, there's actually a party. Yeah, it's at the comic book store, but why is it a bad thing?
It's still they're going out doing stuff, yeah.
Yeah. And they got to play dress up.
I also have to say that I, over the past week, I've seen Kelsey has had some movies on in the background while I've been doing work, and you'll notice that they are not my cup of tea movies. One was Hitch, starring Will Smith.
You didn't like Hitch?
What was that?
You didn't like Hitch?
I liked it okay. It's just not like my go-to movie, so she put it on because she liked it. So if I'm going to have a movie night, that's not going to be what I pick, really. That's
fair.
And it turned out that... Stewart was in it. He played one of Will Smith's people. He helps them... Clients, yes.
I don't remember that. It's been so long since I've seen that movie.
It's like just a few scenes right at the beginning where I'm like, that guy looks really familiar. And then I noticed Howard, and Kelsey had on a Cinderella story starring Hilary Duff, and he was in it. He dressed it up as Neo from The Matrix in one dance scene or something, and he's like, let's do the mating call, and like dances around. I'm like, I know that. In fact, I think Kelsey pointed him out. She's like, isn't he from your show? I'm like, yeah.
I don't recognize him without the dickie.
Exactly. And the mom, Howard!
Howard!
So, anything else new? We did get an email from Rick, and I'm going to read it because I'm curious what everybody else thinks. It's referring to the episode 4-9 when Penny's father comes to visit, and she pretends that her and Leonard are still dating, and he finds out that they aren't actually dating, and he gets mad and is acting like he's really mad at Leonard, and then tells Leonard, basically, don't give up on her. I like you. And he says that he wants kids, and this is important because he says he wants kids. Grandkids that are not going to grow up in a house with wheels. And we were discussing in the podcast that she has nephews, so the line seemed confusing or didn't add up with the actual story Bible, what's going on in the story, because she does have nephews. And Rick mentions that he's seeing the second qualifier as he has grandkids, but he wants the grandkids not to grow up in a house with wheels. Is that the way you understand it?
I know. I after reading Rick's email, after thinking about it, I don't know. I'm not fully convinced that it's not a goof. I'm not
Yeah.
100% convinced, but I did rewatch that scene, and there really wasn't a pause in the way he says it. He definitely just says straight lined. I want grandkids before I die, and I want them to grow up in a house without wheels. It just seems like a very jerky and awkward thing to say when you actually do have grandkids.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not 100% convinced. I see the validity. Oh, well, hello. I got someone staring at me.
Somebody stopping by.
Oh, you want to say night night? You want to say night night into the mic? Say night night to
Night.
say night night to our audience. Say night night.
Night night.
Night night, Hunter.
All right, hold on 1 second.
Sure.
Oh no.
Not even sorry about that. That was great. Yeah. All right, but what I was saying,
Yeah.
I'm not 100% convinced. I see the validity in his argument, but I don't know. It's just not something a grandfather would say. It just doesn't feel like it. But what does everyone else think?
Yeah, the way I hear it is, and I can definitely see Rick's argument that he's saying, I want grandkids and I want them to not, like, two different things. Second qualifier, as Rick says, and I want those grandkids not to grow up in a house with wheels. Acknowledging he does have grandkids, but they're in a house with wheels. But I really took it as, I want grandkids, and for the grandkids that I'm going to have that I don't have, I want them to grow up in a house with wheels. And after watching it again, I still feel like that's the way it comes out to me. But it's kind of, it's like you said, it's a little jerky, it's kind of awkward, and so I'm curious what everybody else think. Do you think he acknowledges he has other nephews, or is there an issue here? Or maybe they aren't his nephews, maybe he's divorced and they're other
Grandkids.
people's grandkids, yeah.
Yeah.
Penny's nephews, there we go.
Yeah.
Man, I'm screwing all these terms up, I apologize.
It's been a long week for both of us.
Yeah. What are we even talking about? What's this podcast about? No.
It's the Grandkid Podcast.
The grandkids. It's a night podcast.
But yeah, it doesn't seem like a grandfather would make that sweeping declaration saying, "I want grandkids before I die," and then move on to a second thought. It would be more like, "I don't want my next grandkids to live in a trailer." You know, it would be, you'd think that would be worded differently.
And I'm also curious, do trailers and trailer parks, do they all have wheels?
I don't think they all do.
I was gonna say, aren't quite a few of them are like prefabricated? That's what the ones that I've been in and stayed at. Like, I was always surprised because I always heard like, oh, they have wheels, but I started paying attention in my college years when I had friends, renting them. I'm like, none of these have wheels. What's going on here? So, don't know.
We will just have to agree to disagree on this one.
Yeah.
Until we get Chuck Lorre on the podcast, which is, it's
What
a
did you
whiteboard
mean,
goal.
Chuck?
It's on the whiteboard. We will try to get Chuck Lorre on here.
But I am definitely
But don't hold your
curious.
breath. Don't do it.
Oh, no. While Ryan's passed out, he was holding his breath. He had no lung capacity. Yeah. But yeah, let us know what you think, because I'm curious. Talk us into it. If you believe that it was two different things, or that he acknowledges he has kids, grandkids, god damn. I'm curious what everybody else has to say. I can be convinced. Let's put it that way. Okay.
Well, I can't be, but you can try.
Rob, fucking stubborn son of a bitch.
You know it.
So anything else before we start the episode?
I think that's it. Otherwise, keep on emailing us. Leave us a review on Apple and Spotify. If you're on YouTube, subscribe and click that like button. And follow us on Instagram and TikTok. Now we can get started.
Okay. So we are on Season 4, Episode 11, The Justice League Recombination. This aired December 16th, 2010. As far as I know, this is the last episode for the year before 2011. And you thought 2010 was a bad year. Actually, I don't really remember 2011 that much. So, Mark Sandrowski directed this. Writers, Chuck Lorre, Bill Prady, and Stephen Milaro. I'm getting used to Stephen Milaro's work, and I feel like he always does pretty solid stuff. We start off in the apartment, and they are playing Warlords of Ka. And I
Oh, that's a
actually.
Mystic Warlords of
Oh,
Ka.
Mystic Warlords. There we go. I'm just. I don't know where my brain is. I've joined I think I've mentioned this before because I got you the cards for your birthday, right? I joined a Facebook group that's dedicated to these cards and like artwork and talking about the rules. And I'm curious if I say like I have a podcast. Tell us all about your love for this game. What they'll say, or maybe they'll say like no advertising in
Oh,
here.
you
But
should get a guest.
right, yes, tell us all about your
Tell
love
us
for the
about
game.
it. Yeah, honestly, so I actually did want to look into these rules and everything
Mhm.
in the game because based off the way that they're playing, I noticed that like regardless of how it went down, the last card that got played was Leonard's because he played his card and he was out of cards. So you'd think that would mean that he won the game regardless because he was the last. I mean, but then again, I didn't look up the rules. I
Yeah.
tried to look up the rules, but it was so many pages that I just didn't have enough time to go through it. And then there is a YouTube video out there that breaks down the game, but it was like 40 minutes long.
Damn.
I was like, I don't have time.
And for some
Sorry.
reason, when I got you the game, I was seeing it more like kind of like a Magic the Gathering or a deck building game. Like, have you ever played Ascension?
Nah, not Ascension.
Oh,
No.
it's there's like 20 different versions out there. They're all good, but it's basically like there's cards in the middle, and instead of having mana, you have like a currency that you buy the cards and build your deck to fight your opponents with the cards that you buy through the game. And each edition only has so many cards, so it's not collectible, but like in the game you're collecting them to play in that round. So I was kind of seeing it like that, where you like collect cards and you use them to fight, but this round seemed more like almost like Uno or something, where they're putting cards down and trying to get one higher or one below or something to get.
That's how I always interpreted it as.
That's how you interpret it. So maybe I
Yeah.
was off. But why would you need 40 minutes to explain those rules?
I will read it at some point because I know you and I want to play it. But if you actually are on that like group thing, maybe somebody wants to come on the podcast and explain it to all of us. A little side
gonna
quest
reach out.
episode.
A little side quest, a little
Yeah.
filler.
And to see if Sheldon's workaround that he made the card at work and not at home, would that be acceptable?
Is that acceptable? Is that a house rule that they aren't allowed to do homemade cards? Or you ever play Magic the Gathering with somebody who like doesn't want to use their actual cards, so they have like a cardboard one and say, "Oh, I own it, but it's at home, so I'm not using it." And it's like some shitty dragon drawn on it. I'm like,
You know
fuck
what?
that shit.
You know what? They get pretty expensive. I'll allow it. I get it. I wasn't that asshole, but I definitely we had between my brother and I there were some pretty rare cards.
I remember one time I ended up at a tournament just at a local card store that I would go and play. Like every Saturday night, I'd go and play. And they were having a tournament one time. I'm like, yeah, I'll join. And I was not very good, but I think I got third place there. And then I went on to an actual like state tournament, and I got my ass kicked in like the first round. It was horrible. um, but at this, I remember like in the first round, I used some card, and the kid I was playing with is like, I don't think that's tournament legal. And I'm like, I don't even know what tournament legal means. This is the first tournament I've ever been in. And it became a big thing, and like people circled around us and they're like, you were using an illegal card. And they're like,
Oh
you,
my
you
god.
should be disqualified. And I'm like, I'm 10. I don't know what the fuck's going on.
That's a great defense. I'm 10.
And the kid's like, I don't really care. Just have him play a different card. I'm like, okay. So we removed it and we kept playing. I ended up winning, but I always appreciated his stance. I like, who fucking knows? And like, I felt like it became such a big deal that he wouldn't have said anything had he known. But it was a good lesson to me that some cards, like, they make them, but you can't fucking use them. Why would you be able to use them if you bought them? I don't know. That's weird to me.
Yeah, it's kind of weird.
So, anyways, that kind of stuck with me, that animosity, that homemade cards, even if you do own them, no, they have to be tournament legal, and they have to be actually in play. If I'm gonna risk my cards being destroyed, you got to risk them too. I got really, really intense on Magic.
Yeah.
So, anyways, they're playing this, and Sheldon does use his Infinite Sheldon, which is basically a trump card, and he wins everything. And he gets away with this because he made it at work. And he doesn't understand why people don't want to play games with him. It just doesn't make sense. There's a knock at the door, and Leonard gets it. Penny and Zach are there, and apparently, Zach and Penny are dating again. Penny's dropping off Leonard's magazine. I noted it's just called Science Magazine. Like, that's the name of it. So,
Science.
science. And Zach points out, oh, it's all about planets this month. Leonard looks at the cover, and it's apparently just an atom with electrons going around it. And Zach says, we can agree to disagree. That's the great thing about science. There's no one right answer. And everybody kind of looks at each other. They're pretty confused by the statement. And that's when Leonard points out that Penny and Zach are back together again. And Zach asks if they were there earlier. This kind of fell flat for me, but I'm guessing it's because he doesn't get why Leonard's asking if they're back together, like if they returned and came back. So, anyways, Penny says that they should go, but Zach wants to stay and talk science with the science dudes. And that, again, I appreciate and respect Zach. He might not be able to keep up the conversation or know everything, but for what he looks like, he's not making fun of them. He wants to enjoy what they have to say. He wants to try, and I think that's awesome.
Yeah, he just wants to have a conversation with them.
Yeah.
He's very welcoming, even though he was like being the guest in their apartment. He was still like welcoming everyone to his own circle and everything, and I really appreciated that. And I really, you're not there yet, but one thing that I really appreciated about this was when they were, well, I didn't appreciate them mocking him, but I appreciated his willingness to say that he didn't understand something.
Yeah.
Like when they made a joke and he was like, I don't get it. He was like brave enough to like admit that, and that's a quality that as an adult I really find admirable, is when people can actually admit that they don't know something.
99% of people will just fake it and pretend laugh like they did get it. And when you ask them, like, what did that mean? They'll just, like, make up something like, oh, I just don't want to explain it. But I agree. Most people won't admit that they don't get something. They're embarrassed or they don't want to feel dumb. So I think that's an admirable quality, especially because I've noticed that sometimes I'm embarrassed too. And when somebody says they don't get something, I'm like, thank you for saying something because I was confused as hell. So,
Yeah.
you know, I'm friends of people on Facebook who have joke groups, and like 1 out of 10, I'm like, I have no idea what this joke means, but I don't want to be the guy who says, what is this? And there's always somebody else, and I always have to give that a nice little like because I am so appreciate that they explained it for me. So Howard says that they want to talk too. They could talk about rocks, dinosaurs, or the beaver. Zach says that he just watched a show and found out that if you kill a starfish, it will come back to life. Sheldon asks if the starfish was wearing boxer shorts. I'm guessing referring to Nickelodeon's SpongeBob SquarePants on
Yeah.
Nickelodeon. And Zach says no, he's pretty sure it's the Discovery Channel. So I looked into this because I never heard that they come back to life, but I remembered hearing something, and I was curious what the facts were with starfish, and also partially because I know with earthworms, right, that if you cut an earthworm in half, it doesn't kill it. It regenerates as two earthworms. They're that simple of organisms. So I was curious. Did you look into starfish at all?
No, because I thought he was referring to, I thought he misinterpreted the fact that they can actually regenerate.
That's what I
come back to life.
ended up finding. Yeah, but I found out some other interesting facts, so I'm just going to share them for first IQ point. According to National Marine Aquarium, starfish are not fish. They belong to a marine invertebrate class, along with sea cucumbers and sand dollars. They can weigh up to 11 pounds. They can live up to 35 years. Larger ones tend to live longer. There's over 2,000 different species, not all having 5 arms. They all live in saltwater. They cannot survive in freshwater. They turn their stomachs inside out to eat. Basically, they eat clam shells and mussels, and their stomach exits their bodies, digests their food, and then sucks back up with the nutrients. And another weird thing, they have no brain or blood. they use seawater to pump nutrients through their system. And then on a different site I found on sealife.com, I found that even though they have no brain or blood, they have eyes in their arms. And these eyes are very basic. Apparently, they can only detect light and help them navigate. They're not like our eyes, but like, for fuck's sake, I don't know how you can have an eye and see without a brain. Like, doesn't the brain process that? I don't get it. But I also don't know how scientists figured out what they can see. Anyways, they do have eyes in their arms. And like you said, the fact that Zach was probably getting at. Uh-oh. They, when an appendage is cut off, they can regenerate a full limb. So if one of their 5 or 4 or how many they have arms gets cut off, it can take up to a year, but it can regenerate. So I'm guessing that's what he was referring to, and that's what you're going with as well. But I was really curious because I wasn't sure. Again, with earthworms, knowing that if you cut them in half, you can make 2 of them. So I was curious. In this case, I guess if you cut the starfish in half, it dies. But if you cut one of the limbs off, the limbs comes back. So there's a slight difference there. Although I don't know, because if it doesn't have a brain, it doesn't have blood. Does it just?
I know. What's like? How is it different if you're cutting it in half? Like, where's like the, or is that like just the central nervous system or something that just gets destroyed,
wrecked, and stuff? I don't know. Starfish are weird. Nature's kind of scary. So, anyways, that's the research I did, and you're right that he was getting confused with it. Doesn't come back from the dead. It just regrows. Zombie starfish. They've come to eat your brains. They eject their stomachs, eat your brains, and suck it back up.
Well, in Suicide Squad, the main bad guy was a giant starfish, alien starfish.
I don't know if I saw that or just saw pictures of it, but I seem to recall that. Did he eat people?
I mentioned this last episode too, I think. The Suicide Squad, the James Gunn one, was definitely one of the best DC movies out there.
You mentioned that, yeah. But I don't think we talked about the bad guy being a starfish, so...
Go watch it.
Go watch it. Just go watch it. Alright, so Leonard says they might, or Zach says I was definitely a discovery because he also heard dolphins might be smarter than people. Leonard says they might be smarter than some people. Zach says they could do an experiment. Sheldon, while they start talking about the experiment, how could they do an experiment to try this out? And Sheldon says that they would need a hoop and some tasty treats that Zach likes. They all laugh, and this is, like you said, when Zach admits, I don't get it. And Leonard says the dolphin might. Ha ha ha. Zach finally realizes they're calling him stupid and leaves. Penny says shame on them for being jerks. Raj, when she leaves, Raj says, what did I do? Because he just sat there quiet the whole time. He can't even speak with Penny in the room. And I love, she comes back in and says, yeah, you were laughing at them, and closes the door. So and I laughed really hard at that because I was thinking the same thing. Like, you laughed with them, Raj, and she comes back in and says it.
Yeah, he was compliant.
He was compliant. Compliance is as bad.
And I actually did do a little bit of research on dolphins.
Oh, go for it. Have we talked about them before?
I don't think so.
Because
I don't recall talking about dolphins with you.
I just remember reading, maybe it was just on my own, about a woman who basically had sexual relationships with a dolphin every day before they worked. And basically she was like a scientist. I didn't do research, but this stuck out. I read about it like last year. She like flooded her living quarters so that he could swim in and she could work with him. And like she clarified, like she's not in love with him or anything. But the fact is, every morning he was basically horny. So she would get him off. And it seemed like it was probably hand stuff. It didn't get really into the details, but after she got him off, he was more prepared to do the work for the day. And she's like, it was just easier to get by if I got him off. And the whole thing seemed really weird, but I was wondering that if we had talked about that, or for some reason I just looked it up on my own. But
God, yeah, so if we did talk about that, I definitely blocked that from my memory.
So, dolphin handjobs. Does anybody else remember this? Or is this,
anybody at all? Do you remember that? Repressed memory much?
Oh, man. Why can't I repress it? It's stuck there. So what did you find of dolphins?
Well, nothing about that. But I was wondering where they are in the hierarchy of intelligence,
Mm,
essentially. Because Zach was convinced that they were smarter than humans, when we all know that they're probably not. But
yeah.
I found this on AmericanOceans.org and EnviroLiteracy.org. Not quite smarter than humans, but very close. Dolphins are usually compared to primates in terms of their intelligence. While primates are generally considered to be the smartest animals after humans, dolphins are not far behind. Both dolphins and primates have been observed using tools, communicating with each other, and exhibiting complex social behaviors. They consistently demonstrate a remarkable capacity for learning, problem solving, communication, and social interaction. But we can't really determine an associated IQ with dolphins, as there is no standardized IQ test for dolphins.
We can't sit them
It
down and give them a pencil and say fill in the blanks, right?
Not quite, maybe not yet.
Maybe if they had thumbs.
Yeah. Well, intelligence is a complex concept that is difficult to measure in animals. However, various studies have shown that dolphins possess a high level of cognitive abilities, such as problem solving, self awareness, and communication skills. Their complex behaviors, sophisticated communication systems, and neuroanatomical features firmly place them among the most intelligent creatures on Earth. In fact, many studies position them as second only to humans in terms of overall smarts. This intelligence isn't just about raw brain power, it's reflected in their adaptive behaviors, emotional complexity, and the ability to thrive in a diverse marine environment. So, in general, not as smart as a human, but they're definitely smarter than some, as we have learned.
I've heard two things. One, that, and I don't believe this. I don't know how they would even begin. It's kind of like IQ, but I've heard that dolphins are the only other creature that has recreational sex for fun. And I'm like, why do other animals have it? Like, is it if it's painful? I don't think that they'd have it, right? There's something about it that says this is fun. And also, do you quiz dolphins like afterwards? Like, did you have that sex for fun, or did you do it because you needed to? Like, I don't think the dolphins are going to answer, so I don't know how they find that out. I've heard that it seems kind of like wishy washy, but what I have also heard is that they do partake in recreational drug use. Uh, they find pufferfish and they get the pufferfish, the fugu, to swell up. And pufferfish is the one that if you eat the bad part, you die because of the neurotoxins. And they bounce the pufferfish back and forth and it pokes them and it gets the neurotoxins in them and makes them feel drunk.
Oh, they're
And
like
so, like,
shooting up heroin.
exactly into like the nose, like whoa! But like you can see, like there's videos of them like playing with these pufferfish and like knocking them back and forth, and the pufferfish is like rolling around, like fuck, and they're just fucking with it. So I don't know about the recreational sex, but there are evidence that they like to get drunk on pufferfish enzymes,
Interesting.
neurotoxins.
If that's not a sign for intelligence, I don't know what is.
Right? Wow. I feel like I know a lot about dolphins more than I thought I did.
Yeah. Sex and drugs.
Sex and drugs.
They know what's up.
Yeah. So yeah, I agree. They're pretty smart. I'm always curious to hear more about dolphins versus crows, though, because I feel like dolphins get lumped in. Well, they are mammals, but we compare them to us because they're mammals. But we don't really talk about how smart crows are because they're birds. But crows are fucking smart. They're terrifying.
I've seen them like solve like puzzles and everything like that.
Take
They definitely
standardized test.
Yeah. They actually have an IQ standardization.
Yeah.
But yeah, crows are known for remembering faces.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you're kind to them, or more importantly, if you're mean to them, even like years later, they'll come back and attack you.
And they'll tell their friends, like, this guy's a jackass, attack him. And like, wow. That's okay. Anything else about dolphins?
I think I know too much about dolphins.
That was we just lost an IQ point from that. Ryan, thanks a lot.
I am now officially dumber.
Dumber. Dolphin hand jobs. Damn. Okay, so the credits roll. We're back at the apartment, and Leonard starts to feel a little guilty, wonders if they were bullying Zach. Howard says no. Zach left unswirlied, and his ass crack was underpants free. So that's the standards he gets by being bullied, that you get swirled in a wedgie.
Or
Raj,
physical harm.
physical harm. Raj seconds this and says he didn't. Zach left without a penis drawn on his forehead. And he says that apparently the first day of cricket camp, this actually happened to him, and they used his eyes as testicles. So that's a sight to think of. Leonard considers giving an apology and thinks about what he can say. Sheldon says, Zach, I'm sorry, you're stupid, have a milk dud. And I do love this ongoing joke. He has this theory that milk duds are, with their flavor and self-deprecating name, they are the most apologetic of candies. And I'm just going to throw 1 point on there. I'm not entirely sure if they're apologetic, but I like them, and I would accept them as an apology because milk duds are special. Are special.
So I did a little bit of research on this because I took this as, by saying it's the most apologetic candy, he's saying that it's the candy to apologize with, right? Is that how you took that? So if I'm interpreting that right, that means I researched this correctly because I looked into what candy you should give to apologize.
That makes sense. Kind of like I was talking to somebody the other day that roses, the color of rose you give represents the relationship. And somebody
Yeah,
got a yellow rose. I'm like, doesn't that mean friendship? And they
friendship.
didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe candy. If you give them like rock candy, that means fuck you. What'd you find?
Here's this dolphin candy.
Dolphin candy. Notice how the candy's hung. What do you think this means?
Well, based off the research, I do like Sheldon's logic, but I do think he is wrong because the most apologetic candy is not Milk Duds. And I cross-checked this with multiple sites, theknock.com, giftconsultant.com, and happywedding.app. What you want to do is, if you screw up with anybody, is you want to go gourmet with chocolates. Good quality or handcrafted. Something exquisite. So most experts, as I will air quote that, because who
Expert
knows how much
apologists. They've
Yeah.
apologized a lot in their lives.
They say if you're gonna apologize, go gourmet. But then I was thinking, if you were to not go gourmet, and if you're gonna go national brand, wouldn't you go by the most popular? Wouldn't you go with the one that people are gonna like the most? I'm sure people like Milk Duds, but that can't be the most popular one. Like if someone needs to apologize to me, would I rather have a Snickers or a Milk Dud? It's like, well, I like Snickers better, so you'd think that it would be the most popular one. So I know we've kind of done this before, but it doesn't hurt to go again, to go with the top ranked candy bars. I know we've done this before, but I love
Do it
this
again.
topic. Let's just do it again. We're doing it again, and we're counting it as another IQ point.
It brings
So
back the dolphin IQ point I ruined for everybody.
I know. Let's bring back the fun with candy. So one website, facts.net, Milk Duds not even ranked. And then I found on a site, two food trippers. They had ranked the top 25 best candy bars, and it wasn't on there either. Yahoo did a ranking, and again, Milk Duds not ranked at all. But their top five were number one, Snickers, number two, Milky Way, number three, Skittles, number four, Kit Kat, number five, M&M's. But I have a couple more lists.
And these are
Um,
U.S. lists.
yes.
Okay, national U.S.
Yeah. So on today.ugov.com, this apparently is based off consumer ratings. They had a completely different ranked top five. So number one was peanut M&Ms. I know, I didn't see that one. It puts The next couple ones will definitely put this list to question, but according to them, it's based off consumer rankings. But I don't know where they got it from. But number two, they put gummy bears.
Huh.
Number three, Jolly Ranchers. Number four, Godiva, and number five, Mentos. So I don't
Fucking
think
Mentos? Oh,
I
God.
don't think I trust this site.
Damn.
But Milk Duds nowhere on there.
And I don't know how I feel about Godiva because that's borderline.
It's a brand.
Yeah, it's a brand. But it's getting up to the gourmet.
Gourmet.
Yeah, and it's somewhere in between. The chocolate you get on Milk Duds is not the same chocolate you get in Lindt or Godiva or whatever. I don't even know if it's actually chocolate or it's just like brown
It was really
wax
fun to watch. On YouTube, you could watch people from Switzerland try American chocolate and just see how disgusted they are by it.
What the?
What is this?
I was gonna say, and that's why it made me ask if it was the U.S. list because one of my favorite candy bars you can't get in the States, Cadbury's Crunchy, and I've always known it as
that.
A chocolate place up in Erie used to make the same thing but gourmet, and they used to call it like Grandpa's candy, and it's like or sponge candy sometimes it's called, but it's like a butter crisp center. Kind of think about almost like the color and taste of a Butterfinger, but it's like puffed. And so it like crunches and like melts in your mouth, and it's kind of that butterscotch flavor almost. That's how I describe it, and I've always loved it. And for some reason, the United States is like fuck that shit. We want Jolly Ranchers. I don't know.
And Mentos.
Mentos. But yeah, I feel
Can
like
you buy that online? Can you like special order it?
I think so. I think if you go to like a World Market or something, they usually have it, or somewhere that has a little bit special. It's just usually imported as opposed to it's not really in the stores or supermarkets. But you should be able to get it pretty easily. But you have to get it fresh because if it sits too long, like the inside can like get humidity in it or like kind of age and like it's no longer crunchy. It's kind of sticky and gross. So, yeah, I've had a few a little too long, and I think I still ate them though because I want to love it. But anyways, I like Milk Duds because they're a little bit more challenging to find. It's like finding a what do they call it? Whatchamacallit. If somebody brought me a whatchamacallit, I'm like, you did something special here. That you don't find that just
I don't think I've ever had a whatchamacallit.
Really.
Yeah, it just wasn't one of the more popular ones. So, like, you get candy at Halloween, you never see a whatchamacallit on there.
Right? Like, where do they even come from? I remember in middle school, I had to wait for my sister while she finished something and she was my ride home, and I'd get a soda and a candy bar. I was like on Thursdays or something, I don't remember. And the vending machine had whatchamacalls it. And I think that's the only place I've ever regularly purchased them, but I used to love those fuckers. There's like rice and like the Rice Krispie and caramel in the middle. It's pure sugar, but
You know what? I have to go to the store tomorrow. I think I might look for one.
I definitely support the crunchies over the whatchamacallits, but whatchamacallits, like, it's also just special because you don't see them. So if you come across like this candy, like I've never seen that before, or like what do they call them? Oh, Henry's, those like giant ones. Is that what they're called?
Henry's.
I'm gonna look this up really quick.
Or is it a Charleston Chew?
That's what I'm thinking. Charleston Chew. What the fuck's an old Henry?
what is an old? Or is that a sex thing?
It might be a sex.
Well,
it is a candy bar too.
Oh, there's a movie called Old Henry.
It kind of looks like a Snickers, or I don't know, maybe like a Three Musketeers. I don't know. These candies.
Oh, Henry, not Old Henry. I thought you were saying Old Henry.
Oh, well, it is pretty old, but
what's that? Just it looks like a Payday.
Payday. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Payday.
I do like Paydays. Anything with caramel is like
you can't go too wrong if it has caramel, right?
Nope.
Ah.
And I learned how to make caramel over the holidays. How it's just sugar. I mean, I always knew that it was just sugar cooked,
Uh-huh.
but I never realized how easy it really is.
Did it turn out pretty well? I'm afraid that I'd scorch it and like burn my
Oh
pan.
yeah, it turned out good. Yeah,
Nice, nice.
yeah. I added a little cream to it because I used that as like a sauce because I made that banana pudding.
Yeah. And drizzle on top.
Oh, so
Nice.
good.
That reminds me, I found I showed Rod, but on the Super Bowl I found banana pudding moonshine. I still need to try it. Like
Good.
pudding moonshine. It's I don't know. I'll let you know how it goes, but I keep forgetting about it, and it's one that probably is going to be hard on my tummy. So,
Yeah. All right. One last list. One
yeah.
last more realistic list. This is on candyretailer.com. Top 5 most popular candy bars in America. Number 1, Snickers. 2, Reese's Cups. 3, M&M's, which it was referring to original. 4, a Hershey's bar. And number 5, Kit Kats.
I'm kind of surprised Hershey's are on there, although I feel like s'mores in the summer keep Hershey alive. Like, that's what those bars are made for, and that's what people eat them with.
I know, it's like how many people just eat the Hershey's bar?
Like, I need to go to the store and get a king size Hershey bar and just dive in. Like, you usually want something in it. Yeah, I don't know.
S'more season's coming around the corner.
Right? It's coming up. I'm looking at getting a new tent this year, so I'm keeping an eye on it.
Yeah, I'm looking at trying to upgrade my patio set to one of those ones with like a fire pit thing, like a gas fire. So it's like a little coffee table and a fire pit.
Ah, those are nice. You
Yeah,
can put your feet up by it.
Yeah, we're thinking about upgrading that, just because winter was harsh and we didn't have a heater, so it's like, well, we can't use our deck now.
Just look at it. It looks pretty.
Yeah.
That's my patio furniture I got from my neighbor. He was upgrading and like it's missing some parts and it's kind of falling in. I'm like, I should get something, but I mean it's still standing, so I don't want to be wasteful.
Yeah.
I'll probably get something. I also want to remodel my backyard a little bit, so I'm trying to figure that out. All the grass is basically dead and turned to moss, so I need to do something. I don't know.
Oh yeah, we're actually just talking about redoing ours. Like our our entire neighborhood, like everybody is so pissed that like with after construction, like all of the soil is that clay stuff, where it's like that really thick layer of clay, so no water gets into it. So like people are developing like like infected grass and everything like that. It's just not growing well. It's patchy and everything.
Yeah.
So everybody has been dropping layers of topsoil and then having to like reseed. So we think that we might have to do it this year.
I tell you, you can cut this out too. But you know, I had my roof redone a couple years ago.
Yeah.
The other day I was coming home and a guy comes and knocks on my door as I was about to get out of my car, and he goes, I noticed you had your roof redone. What was wrong with it? And I go, oh, the builder punctured the roof. They put the nails in too far, and a lot of them were gouging and forming holes that the water was collecting in. He goes, yeah, I'm selling that house, and the inspector just found that out. We might have to replace all the insulation, and I have to get a new roof now, too. And he's like, I was just checking if that's the same thing. I'm like, yeah, my insulation was fine, but same thing. I got lucky.
Was it all the same builder?
Yep.
Is that why? Oh, that sucks.
Yeah. And chances are, if they did it to us, every other fucker on this road has the same exact issue. They're just not seeing the problems.
Until they go up there.
Until they go up there, or their whole ceiling collapses.
Mold. Oh my god.
Yeah. Man, I feel bad. So, yeah, he's getting his roof redone right now. I saw some trucks out there earlier.
Yeah, we actually have an inspection coming up in the next month because our 1 year is in May. So we wanted to do a full-on inspection and then submit everything into the warranty department.
I wish I would have noticed this during the inspection, but oh well. You live, you learn.
Yeah.
Okay, so anything more about candy?
Nope. But let us know what your favorite candy is when you are wronged in life. What kind of candy bar will remedy that?
Yeah,
Shoot us a message.
let's stay out of gourmet because it's unfair to compare like chocolate covered strawberries to a Snickers bar. It's a different ball game. What type of candy bar says I'm sorry?
Candy bar.
Candy bar.
Yes.
There we
It
go.
doesn't even have to be American. Tell us
Yeah,
like what your favorite what's your go-to candy bar? And maybe Ryan and I will try to find it.
I probably will. I like trying candy, so tell us.
Me too.
Okay, so Leonard says they should all go, but nobody gets up. And he says, if you go, I'll get you free comic books. And they still don't get up. That's harsh. I don't know why. I mean,
Well,
I'd go.
candy or not candy. Comic
Candy.
books are not that expensive.
The, single issues. I don't know. Single issues are still like $3.99, $4.99 a piece. That adds up. And if you get like two or three of them,
Okay, I guess it could add up
They can
depending
add
how
up.
many he wants to buy them.
yeah, he's probably only gonna get like one. So maybe that's not a big deal. Uh, and he says that they might get to see him get punched if they come with, and they all get up. Raj mentions that junior mints are pretty apologetic too, and I disagree with them with Sheldon. I think junior mints are special, but like they're pretty plain. Like a lot of people hate them straight up because it's just like eating mint
It's like a
with
peppermint patty.
yeah, it's just a bunch of mint in your mouth with a little chocolate, and like you have to really be liking that to like it or to appreciate it.
I loved them as a child. It was funny. Like whenever we went to the movies, I got Junior Mints. My brother got Milk Duds.
I used to hate them. I used to do milk duds. I was a milk dud kid. I went with Twizzlers for a while. And I know we've talked about Twizzlers for Shred Vines, but I used to like Twizzlers for a while. And then I went to Bunch of Crunch, and then now I'm basically more of a milk dud. If they have milk duds, I go with those. And if they have Bunch of Crunch, that's a good second. But if they don't have either of those, I get kind of pissy, and I don't know if I want to see the movie. So I'm like, you had two fucking options, and you didn't have either. Like, what?
I want my money back. I'm not
Money
seeing
back.
this movie. This is
Eh,
garbage.
Thing is, they always have fucking red vines. I don't know what it is with red vines these days, but every single theater has them. Like, I don't even see Twizzlers around anymore, so it's all very sad. All right, so they're in the hallway, and Leonard knocks, and Sheldon does his name calling. Goes, Penny, even though Leonard is the one knocking. So that was kind of an interesting OCD twitch. All right. Penny answers, and Leonard says that they've come to apologize. Leonard mentions that they were just kidding. It's what they do. And I kind of agree with him that they do pick on each other quite a bit. So Zach isn't used to that. And technically, Sheldon calls them all stupid from time to time. So it's not unheard of. I do think it was still kind of mean. So I don't know. I'm somewhere in between, but I do agree they do pick on each other. And he points out Sheldon looks like a praying mantis. Sheldon says it's very hurtful. So
I like his reaction. Just very straightforward, direct. That's very hurtful.
that's hurtful.
And it's not the first time that he's been called, like, described as a praying mantis.
So he hears it a lot, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
It's very hurtful. Zach says it wasn't nice, and Sheldon offers him a milk dud, and Zach says he loves those. So, okay, they're cool, and Sheldon scoffs at Raj's suggestion of junior mints. Zach invites them in for a beer, but they say that they are going to the comic book store, and Zach mentions he hasn't been to a comic book store in literally a million years. Sheldon mocks his use of literally, and Leonard tells him not to, and I almost awarded myself a point for being against Sheldon because I go back and forth with this. I understand that using literally hyperbolically, is that word, as a hyperbole, literal hyperbole is fine. Basically, if you're using it to stress or exaggerate, like saying it rained cats and dogs, people know you don't. Cats and dogs didn't fall out of the sky. You're exaggerating just how much water fell out of the sky. So when people say, I literally died, you can assume they're exaggerating. They didn't die because they're not a fucking starfish. They didn't come back to life. But you know that they're exaggerating. And so I'm fine with it. But I do believe that people use it too often, and they don't always mean it exaggerating. They mean it like they think they actually literally died or something. So anyways, I wanted to point out that I was considering a point there, but I went back right before the episode started. No points for that today. Zach asks if Penny wants to go to the comic book store, and she's basically like, no, and freaks out because he just starts going without her. And she seems kind of mad that he's ditching her, and he offers her a milk dud. Have a milk dud.
Yep, I love that. It's a nice little sign that they've accepted him into the group, and Sheldon's like helping him out and whispering to like remedy it.
Yeah, just okay, he's part, which is funny because Sheldon acts like he's really closed off to newcomers, but I feel like he's let Zach in already, so that's cool. At the comic book store, Zach wants to read Archie. Apparently, he mentions Archie is very sophisticated now. There's 2 universes. Archie's married to different women in each of them. Midge is breaking up with Moose. And I love Raj, like, jumps in and is like, no way! And Zach's like, yeah, about time, right? So him and Raj have something in common. They go off to look at Archie comics, which confused me because it seems like he's caught up on Archie, which means that he's probably been to a comic book store fairly recently. And so when he said like literally forever, like I imagine he's been in there like in a month or 2. Like I don't know, maybe he just
Or maybe he got it at the store or like a convenience store or something like that.
That's fair. They might have it at like a gas station or something, or maybe he's several months behind. I don't know. Anyways, Stuart comes over and asks if they've all finally chipped in for a bodyguard. And they have to explain who Zach is and why he's with them. Stuart mentions that they should all come to the New Year's Eve costume party at the comic store. Sheldon says they're going to come as the Justice League of America, which apparently is different than every other year where they've come as the Justice League of America. And so nothing new there, but Sheldon's very excited. Sheldon says they could win if they could shift Leonard from being Superman and get Zach to do it. And as they're talking about this, they're talking about who could do this, and not specifically saying Zach. And Sheldon says, that person over there. And I point this out because I get a point for being like Zach. Zach is reading with his lips. He's mouthing the words. And I've been known to do this. And apparently it makes people look really stupid. But first of all, it helps keep me concentrated. And second of all, I like the feeling of the words, and I like understanding and interpreting the sentence. That sounds really weird, but fuck it. I'm one for Zach here. I like mouthing the words. I tried not to, but
sometimes I mouth the words to my own inner monologue, and I look like a crazy person.
It's like, kill them all. Rob, you're talking again. Oh yeah.
Nothing.
Read. Like Zach.
Yeah, my wife catches me every once in a while. It's like, what are you saying to yourself?
Yeah, I don't do it all that much, but sometimes I know my dad does. Like every now and then you can hear him just going, and like, Dad, who are you talking to? So myself. I'm having a very funny conversation with myself. So it's bound to happen. Alright, so Howard mentions that Zach could fit. He has the muscles, and Leonard says they can't replace him with Zach. Sheldon points out, but Penny replaced you with Zach. Howard mentions she seems happier. They should be too. Everybody should be happier. So Zach basically gets the position already. Zach returns with the comics, and he said, I feel like this line, I'm all set for my weekend number 2s. So apparently he reads comics while he poops. They offer him the part of
pre-smartphones.
Pre-smartphones, right? Part of Superman, or yeah, he takes the. Where was that? Wait. Oh, he says that the position sounds like a lot of responsibility. This kind of comes Superman back up later to be Superman, but he takes it basically. They're coming back to the apartment, and Leonard wants to be Green Lantern if he can't be Superman. And that leaves Raj being Aquaman, but Aquaman sucks. And this is before the Aquaman movies, but I'm reminded of... Did you ever watch, what was it called? Entourage.
Yes, when they had when he got to be Aquaman.
Yeah, and they really push it because they know Aquaman sucks, but apparently him... Like, I guess they don't say it, but I'm sure that he picked Aquaman because he's, like, probably the hardest character to work with. and he makes it like the highest grossing movie of our all time, right?
Yep.
His version of Aquaman. So it's yeah, I'm always thinking of that when I hear Aquaman. They meet
Well,
Penny.
I did a little bit of research on
Oh,
this
go
because
for it.
um growing up watching Batman, watching Superman, you don't really see too much Aquaman. Aquaman got featured in a lot of things in the
Hmm.
90s. We're 90s kids, so we can't really rewind back that far back to our experience with Aquaman. But it got me wondering. I was like, well, every time I see Aquaman, I never thought he sucked. I never really thought that poorly of him. But this every time I rewatch this, there's always these reference. It's not the first time that Aquaman is referenced, and they say that he sucks and everything like that. So I wanted to know a little bit more why people think Aquaman sucks.
Wow, the Aquaman hate.
Yep, and even the newer one is getting a lot of hate too. People are not loving Aquaman.
What is wrong with Aquaman?
But this is why people think Aquaman sucks. And I found this on CBR.com. So, 8 bullet points. It's quite a few bullet points on why you suck. So, number one, his only real power seems like he talks to fish and he sends fish in to fight his battles. So, I guess in the old school days, he didn't really do a lot of his own fighting. He summoned fish and had them fight his battles. Number two, he didn't have, in quote, real powers. He talked to fish, he swam, he breathed underwater, which at the time was not that impressive, especially when he's partnered with like Superman. Number three, his portrayal in Super Friends. While Batman and Superman fought villains, he usually just stood in the background and rode his giant seahorse. So he didn't, in that show, Super Friends, he just didn't really do that much.
You go, everybody. Good job.
Yeah. Number four, his origin story constantly changed. So the original Aquaman was actually the son of a scientist that discovered Atlantis, and the father used Atlantean technology to train Aquaman, or to train him to become Aquaman. But then later on, it changed to him being the son of the Atlantean queen and a sorcerer. So, confusing origin story. Number five, people were not a fan of the costume. Granted, it's changed over time, but in the beginning, it was just this orange and green jumpsuit.
Yeah.
But eventually, it evolved into like armor. So it's still green and orange, but it was a lot more badass looking. Number six, there was a notion that he's useless on land. So his only powers were really in the ocean. Once he got on land, couldn't do anything. Number seven, he's a wimp. In the past, that was one of the reasons.
He's a wimp.
In the past, he never really did anything, which we kind of mentioned earlier. So it's kind of like a double one. But Superman was portrayed being super strong, and Batman always fighting crime. But Aquaman would just kind of stand there. So he wasn't really a heavy hitter in the team.
See, I have a problem, and this is partially why I don't like DC, is they have unrealistic standards. I don't feel like Superman and Batman should be in the same universe. Batman has no superpowers. So to say Aquaman sucks because he doesn't have superpowers, he has more than Batman. Batman just has billionaire technology. He could be solving world hunger, but instead he pays for these fucking jetmobiles to zoom through Gotham. What's better, your fucking Batmobile or solving world hunger, Batman? And
well, technically, Batman is the world's greatest detective, and in the comics, Batman has defeated Superman by using his brain and intellect.
Yeah, but you never really defeat Superman, which is part of the reason I don't like Superman, because you can't kill him. You can...
Well, kryptonite.
It knocks him down. It never kills him. It can...
It could stab him.
It can
if you
incapacitate him. But the worst thing that can happen to Superman is he kills somebody he loves, which he can just turn back time and fixes it. So it's like he's not an interesting character because it's like, oh, problem, I fixed it, I can do whatever. And it's like, you can't compare Superman, who could do anything, to Aquaman, who got the shit into the stick. Like, it's not fair, DC. Like,
Fair points. Fair points.
And then also, comparing Superman to the Flash, and people saying Superman's faster than the Flash. I'm like, Flash had one fucking power, and he's not even the best at it. He's like second best.
Actually, no, they did confirm that the Flash actually is the fastest. That's
I've
what
always
he's known for. He is faster than Superman.
I've always heard the opposite, so I'm glad that that's a thing because that always irritated me because I'm like, Flash had one thing, and if
It
you give
make
that,
I think that's why a lot of people, well, at least that's why I didn't like the DECU, all the Snyder stuff,
yeah,
was because it's exactly like what you said. Even in the movie Justice League, they were nothing without Superman.
mm.
Like they were literally nothing without him. They had to bring him back from the dead just to defeat it wasn't Darkseid, it was Steppenwolf. Like they needed Superman.
And for Aquaman, I mean, like, if all you do is get in the way of Superman, you're not going to step up. You're going to say, I'm back here, out of the way. You're not going to trip on me, and I'm doing my job just by being out of the freaking way. So, I don't know. I have no love for Aquaman. I can't say why I dislike him, but I think
Well,
people
these
are...
8 bullet points are explaining why. And this eighth and final one,
Number 8?
he never in the past he never had his own main storylines. He was literally just a background character.
Mm.
Literally.
Yeah, that's something about Constantine Hellblazer is that I love Constantine. And watching like the animations where he's part of like the Justice League or he helps out, like he still has his own storyline, so that's a big thing. But I always like him because he specializes in like the demonic and the occult, and that's something Batman and Superman really can't touch. Like you have to have special magic, and I'm like, okay, I can get on board. So also just fighting monsters like that, he's cool.
Yeah.
All
Well,
right,
that's it on Aquaman.
that's it. Let us know. We've been asking a lot of questions, but a lot of things have come up. Do you hate Aquaman? Why do you hate Aquaman? do these bullet points ring home for you? Alright, so they're in the hallway and Penny's still mad. They tell her about the costume party and basically push her off on as Wonder Woman, say she has to be Wonder Woman. She doesn't want to be Wonder Woman. She says, why can't Bernadette be Wonder Woman? Apparently, at the Xmas party, we missed the Xmas episode. There was no Xmas episode, but she's quarantined because at her Xmas party, they were doing Jello shots out of petri dishes that were used to house the yellow fever. So they may all be dying pretty soon.
So it makes me wonder, is Bernadette bad at her job? With all the things that, like, oh, I didn't remember if I washed my hands. Oh, now she did Jello shots out of petri dishes that contained yellow fever. It's like, what is happening at your job?
Or mixing Ebola with the common cold? Why would you do that? That would be a terrible thing. But it seems like everybody there is kind of on the same wavelength as her, so I don't know. I don't think she's anybody.
It's the company culture.
Yeah. Excuse me. HR has a field day. And then she asks about Amy, and Amy apparently doesn't like to wear costumes. That's a Sheldon thing because he's a free spirit. And Penny just says, forget it. And Raj says he will be Wonder Woman if he doesn't have to be Aquaman. So, or she can be Aquaman. Anyways, he doesn't want to be Aquaman. Back in the apartment, they are dressed up. Sheldon is running back and forth. He's basically nervous and he's pacing, but he's pretending he's getting into character. And so he's running back and forth saying this is how the Flash paces, by jogging back and forth. Howard turns up as Batman. Sheldon says he's hardly like Batman because he was running late and didn't bother calling to say he was running late. Well, he was late because he couldn't fit Raj and that horrible seahorse onto his scooter. And Raj comes in with a big fucking seahorse. So, yeah. Zach jumps in saying, it's a bird, it's a plane. He forgot the rest of the saying. So, poor Zach. Penny comes in looking wonderful as ever, dressed as Wonder Woman. And she's blonde. And they kind of make a point, but apparently, there's a wig that she can wear. A wig came up with the costume. Oh, and Howard mentions that no one's going to be looking at her hair, so she doesn't need to wear the wig. It's fine. And she punches him for that. They. Oh, when she says she doesn't want to wear the wig, Zach mentions that there's no I in Justice League. And they all kind of look around baffled because there definitely is. And Penny changes her mind and doesn't want to go. She's getting worked up about this, doesn't want to wear the wig, feels pressured anyways, and so she turns, and Raj says, oh, when they say somebody else has to be Wonder Woman, he steps up again, basically saying, I will be Wonder Woman. He doesn't get to be, though. He has to be Aquaman. At Penny's door, Zach is kind of trying to apologize, and she says she's not talking to him, and he gets confused as to whom she's talking to if it's not to him. Sheldon comes by and knocks, and he does his thing where he knocks and goes, Penny, Penny, but he does it really fast because he is the Flash, and he claims that he's knocked 30,000 times. He says he understands why she's upset. She's afraid the costume makes her look fat. And I love her reaction because she gets pissed off, like, why would you say it? And then she looks down like, does it make me look fat? Like, now that you say it, oh God. And Sheldon says not to worry because Amazons used to be beefy gals, but they weren't blonde, so she needs to put on the wig to meet that characteristic. So I didn't IQ point about Amazonians, because I don't know. We assume they're beefy, but I wanted to look into it a little bit. Do you know anything about Amazon women?
I didn't look into whether or not they were beefy. I just did a quick research if they were blonde, and even back in the day, for the original comics of Wonder Woman, some of them are blonde. So his sweeping statement that they were not blonde is not true.
Oh, so you went on the comics, like the Wonder Woman comics. I went into actual history. Did you do?
No.
No.
I'm sure they were beefy, and I'm sure they were blonde.
Actually,
but...
no.
Wait, what?
Yeah, from my understanding, so this gets confusing, but I went to historyextra.com and it had a conversation with John Mann, a historian, British historian, and it gets kind of confusing because Amazonian women come from Greek mythology. The notion is Hercules had to steal a golden girdle, from, I mean, I'm going to butcher this, Hippolyte lady, the queen of the Amazons, the daughter of Ares, the god of war, and supposedly she lived in Thermodon, today's on the southern shores of the Black Sea. So technically they're myths, and there's not a whole lot about them except like just folklore and made up stuff. But it gets kind of confusing because there's a couple strange accounts. One is there's claims that the Greek heroes and Greek legends and Greek armies fought them, and if they were made up, who did they actually fight? And we also don't know where the word came from. There is claims that the word comes from Mazdos, which means without breast. And that's part of the legend, is that Amazon women would cut off one of their breasts so that they would be able to pull a bowstring back and it wouldn't interfere with their chest. However, this is really weird and nobody knows where this came from because most visual depictions, artist depictions of Amazon women, they have both breasts. There's some without, they might have come later, but there's so many with that it's like that etymology doesn't make sense and don't know where that came from. There are stories of kind of sex-crazed, sex-hungry queens trying to seduce Alexander the Great. And after they had sex, they basically disappear, but it seems very vague and kind of whatever. But what does come to is the little hint, the truth in the flurry of mythology, is that there are some assumptions that these myths related to Scythian women, basically Asian women in the inner grasslands of their continent. And the Scythian women had similar writing skills, herding skills, and fighting skills that Greek Amazon legends would suggest. However, I looked up representations of Scythian women, and they seemed small, Asian, and dark-haired. Definitely not the big, beefy blonde women or even brunette women that we think of when we think of, I'm always thinking of Futurama's Schnoo Schnoo women. So it's they're not like that at all. They seem pretty almost petite, and that makes sense with heritage, I suppose, but definitely not what we think of. And we do know that technically the myth came to the Americas by Spaniards who named the Amazon River apparently after these fighting women. And eventually any fighting woman basically got dubbed an Amazonian, even though the legend is very specific and made up. There wasn't one. Depictions are vastly different, and the thoughts on the origins are probably not what they look like in our minds today. So yeah. Do you know in Wonder Woman, where does she where is their homeland? Where does is it? Oh, you're muted again.
Themyscira.
Uh, did they say where it is on planet Earth? Is it like an island?
No, it's supposed to be like a mystery. It's
Oh, it's a
supposed to be like
mystery?
a hidden. It's like a hidden island.
Of course it is. Kind of like an Atlantis type thing going on.
Yeah.
So interesting. So, anyways, I would say they could be blonde. Probably throughout history, they probably weren't. I think blondes were probably more of a Northern Europe thing, and yeah. So, anyways,
Well, in the comics they were, so I guess
were.
he could be referring. Well, he's saying that they weren't blonde, so
yeah, but in
maybe
the comics,
maybe he was blending history with the comics.
and in the comics, I mean, it's a magic island, so anything goes. It doesn't.
Yeah.
Fuck historically accurate. This is a fiction magical island.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But to carry on with this, to finish off this IQ point, he asks her, in what universe is Wonder Woman blonde? Well, there is one.
I was wondering that, and I made note, and I forgot to look it up. So I'm curious.
It was a straight to TV movie in 1974 called Wonder Woman. So I know it's a bit of a stretch, but it is part of the Wonder Woman universe because this character was Wonder Woman and it was based off the comics. Granted, it was her power set and who she was and where she came from was basically completely different. They basically just took the name and called her Wonder Woman. And that eventually turned into the Linda Carter series. So it was straight to TV movie that didn't, well, I wouldn't call it a failure. The viewership was pretty high, but it's just not where the studio wanted to take it. So they redid it and they recreated the Wonder Woman series to the Linda Carter one.
It was because of the hair, wasn't it?
Possibly.
No one will ever know.
But technically, if we want to say it's an expanded universe, there was a blonde Wonder Woman.
It counts. I think it counts.
Yep.
Alright, so we are back at the apartment, and Raj is fumbling around, says, stupid Aquaman, so he's still hating. Leonard says Penny used to flip on him all the time, so try to make Zach feel better. Zach didn't realize they used to date. And apparently she told him she dated a Leonard, but who would have thought it was this Leonard? He assumed it was someone bigger than he says, sure, why not? So basically, yeah, I had no idea she would have gone out with the brainy Leonard, yeah. Zach doesn't want to go without Penny, so the whole night's kind of falling apart. Sheldon says, fine, we'll just have to switch to our Muppet Baby costumes. Raj calls Kermit, and I laughed at this because who the fuck would have Muppet Baby costumes? I don't even think people know Muppet Babies anymore. Kelsey didn't know what they were. I was talking to her about Muppet Babies the other day. She's like, what's that? I'm like, a cartoon? I used to watch it.
Love the Muppet Babies.
Loved it.
Them.
Their imagination was great. They used to be like, how to toy train, and they'd imagine they were like doing a train robbery or something. It was great. And you never knew, why were they staying with this lady with the green striped socks? And it seemed like they lived in a mansion too, and you never got the backstory. They just were in this nursery playing, and that was their life. Sometimes I had nightmares about them leaving that room and seeing the world on fire or something.
Oh,
I don't know. Anyways, Sheldon says he's going to be Kermit. Raj has to be Scooter. Raj mentioned Scooter is the Aquaman of the Muppet Babies. And I kind of forgot that Scooter was in the Muppet Babies. I remember Kermit, Miss Piggy, Ralph, Fonzie,
Yeah.
and Gonzo. And Gonzo was my favorite.
Animal too.
Animal, yeah, because he was the real baby. Like he still
Yeah.
wore, I think they all wore diapers, but like he couldn't even communicate. He's just like, Rah. I loved him. Him and Gonzo. All right, so Howard says they can still make it work. Tells Leonard he has to go talk to Penny. His logic is that Leonard got her to have sex with him, so he has a superpower of brainwashing her. He can make it work. He confirms that they want to convince his ex-girlfriend to come to a costume party with her new boyfriend so they can win a stupid prize. And Sheldon says, yes, just make her wear the wig. So apparently they're on track on this is stupid, but they're going to make him do it anyways, right? And uncomfortable nonetheless. Although, again, Zach's pretty cool, so it could be a lot worse. Penny's apartment, she tells Leonard to go away, but eventually lets him come in. She says she's not going to go, and he says not to wear the wig. At this party, they'll win just by showing up with a girl. Like, that's the winning step, I guess. Penny says it's not the wig, and we get into some heart-to-heart chat here. She says that Leonard says that he hopes nothing's wrong, that he's trying to make things work with Zach. He wants things to be comfortable. And Penny says that they aren't really a couple. She just started dating him so she wouldn't be alone for New Year's Eve, which is kind of a jackass move, but I guess people get lonely at the holidays, although we missed most of the holidays for this year in Big Bang Theory. So she asks if that's pathetic. Leonard says not as pathetic as dressing up for a comic book store on New Year's Eve. So he's trying to help her out, and she says he makes a cute green arrow and not lantern, and he corrects her green lantern and doesn't really see a difference, and he kind of tries to demonstrate the difference between lantern and arrow. And arrow is basically, does he have a superpower? I know he's like an archer, like Bullseye,
I don't
right?
think so.
Yeah.
I never read his comics or seen him in the cartoons, but I did watch Arrow on what's that one channel with
WB,
all the WB whatever
one of
channel
those.
that is, where that's known for pretty people.
Yeah, one of those.
Yeah, he was basically like a Batman. He was like a rich guy, but that he had no superpowers, but he fought crime. It was actually really good.
Was it? He seemed like a cool character. I just really like archers, so I'm interested. Green Lantern, on the other hand, is basically, he's not quite as strong as Superman, but he has like the power of the Green Lantern that gives him the ability to like change anything and like do almost anything.
Yeah.
So he's super powerful compared to like just an archer or just Batman. Penny says the party would be fine, but she says that the costumes and Leonard, and kind of trails off that, like, in Leonard, and he's, what about me, right? And she says nothing, puts on the wig, and says, let's go. She has it, like, half on, and it looks horrible, and he says he can guarantee she'll still be the prettiest girl there. In the hallway, Howard says they have a Wonder Woman, but Superman probably isn't getting laid tonight. Zach looks around and kind of realizes, oh, that's me, and frowns about it. So, she's still pissed off at Zach, and he's not going to get laid. But I do like that scene because she kind of hints at that she's interested in Leonard, or like there's mixed emotions there. It's very complex for her, and it's not like the relationship's over, that she still has feelings. At the comic book store, Stuart is listing off the winners. I think he's dressed up as the Doctor from Doctor Who. Did you pick that up?
I did not pick that up.
I'm not positive, but he had like kind of like a rainbow scarf on and kind of a British looking coat. I'm not positive. If anybody knows, that's what I was leaning towards. And he wasn't part of a group, so it makes sense. But the first thing that I was thinking was the Doctor from Doctor Who. And he says the winner goes to Justice League, and it goes around, and apparently there's like everybody's dressed up as Justice League, and he has to clarify Group 3, and it's the gang, and they all cheer, yay. Sheldon runs up to grab the trophy and is about to give a speech, but he's interrupted because 3, 2, 1, it is midnight, and everybody's kissing. Penny and Zach kiss, and I like the scene because she kisses him, but she makes eye contact with Leonard and kind of pulls away, right? It's like definitely she's feeling kind of odd about it. Meanwhile, Sheldon screams while he's trying to give the speech, and everybody's celebrating. I do have a note. Did you know? Did I make that up? The eye contact, or did it seem like she made eye contact and kind
No,
of?
she definitely made eye
Oh,
contact with him.
okay.
I noticed it too.
I watched it twice. I'm like, I think that I'm gonna say it is, but I don't know if it's just me wanting it to be or whatever. But okay. Um, they're on the walk home, and Zach likes the party and wants to dress like this all the time. Penny asks if he's high, and Leonard says she's the bully now. And they hear an alarm go off, and across the street there's some thugs breaking into a car. And Sheldon says they are the Justice League of America. There's only one thing they can do: turn around and walk away slowly. And they all start walking away. I like Penny's like in with them, and Zach kind of looks around. He's like, maybe. Nah, and even though he's the muscular guy, like he still turns around like fuck that and walks away. Back at the apartment, ending scene. Leonard says he's warm and he's going to set the thermostat to set. He's setting the 72-degree thermostat lower because he's warm, and this kind of irritates Sheldon, and he imagines himself as the Flash running across the country to the Grand Canyon so he can scream out his frustration, and then runs back, and he comes back to reality, and he says, fine, turn it down. And I did a failed IQ point here. It's not really anything big, but I'm curious what everybody has to say. I think I've talked about thermostats before, but I got another bill, and I swear to God, no matter how cold, I can have my heat off, and my gas company sends me this thing that says, are you being efficient with your gas usage? And I'm always 15 to 20% over the efficiency zone. I'm usually 5% under what other houses are doing. But I don't understand how they get that fucking efficiency zone, because I have, for like 2 hours when I get up in the morning, I have the heat boost to 68 degrees. Then it drops down to 65 through the day and evening. And then when I go to bed at like 10 o'clock, it drops down to 60 until I get up the next morning at like 6. Rinse, repeat. So I looked up online what the efficiency zone is. It's supposed to be 68 degrees. 72 is supposed to be high for the winter months. That's too much energy. You're losing it. It's not very efficient. And so the fact that I keep mine at 68 degrees, dropping down to 65 in the afternoon and 60 at night, I don't know what they're looking for. And if anybody has an idea how this is figured out, like my only guess is either I'm losing gas somewhere, my house is
And
fucked up.
it's actually calculating your usage and telling you that you're not being efficient.
Yeah, it quantifies what is it, CFs of gas or whatever, CCFs, the amount of gas I use to heat my house, and compares it to what they think is efficient, what other houses use, and usually other houses are about 25% more than the efficiency zone, and I'm usually in between. I'm usually 15 to 20% above the efficiency zone. The only other thing I can guess is that efficiency zone is based on everybody in the whole city, and maybe if you're getting like 500 square foot apartments. Anyways, this isn't a real IQ point, it's a failed one, but I kind of went into this because as much as I'm getting into this and concerned about the efficiency, I don't feel like Sheldon would be okay at 72. I feel like that's too much of a waste for him and too hot.
Do you think he would choose it based off efficiency, or is he choosing it based off comfort?
That's a good question. And I don't know. I would still think that 70 would probably be.
Yeah, we're in Pennsylvania. We had a pretty harsh winter. We actually had it pretty consistently set at 70.
70.
On really crazy nights, we would spike it up to like 71 just in like the middle of the night, just for Hunter, just because his room gets really cold.
Yeah.
But for the most part, we leave it at 70 or even 69.
And I've heard some people say, well, if you drop it down and then pump it up, it uses more energy to get back up. But I've also heard that's complete rubbish, that if you use the same, to keep it at 68, uses the same amount of energy to get back up to 68. I don't know. There's very mixed feelings, but the science that I've read seems to be that it's better to drop it down if you're not going to use it. If you're leaving the house for 8 hours, let it drop down, and bumping it back up is more efficient and more cost effective. But like you said, from what I've heard and what I've seen in office buildings usually keep thermostats at like 68 to 70 degrees because they claim it's more efficient for workers, that they feel more comfortable and it's not too warm where they start falling asleep. It's like keeps the mental activity going in theory. And I remember I used to work with a woman who would say that that's really a patriarchal study, and that women work better at different temperatures. And I haven't seen a whole lot of evidence about this, but I always thought it was interesting. And it makes sense that, different hormones, different body chemistries, you would have a different temperature regulation, body regulation. But at the same time, I would think that 72 is probably be too hot for Sheldon anyway. So, but yeah, I'm curious if anybody else gets so stupid efficient. I get pissed off at them irrationally so because I try so hard and then it comes out and it's like, you were 30% above. And I'm like, how was I above? My house is basically icicles in it.
Well, you're in Washington. They're probably definitely more energy conscious. Whereas Pennsylvania, we don't give a fuck.
Burn that gas.
Yeah.
And I also use my fireplace quite a bit, which is wood, and as opposed to gas. I imagine if I was using a gas fireplace, that would contribute, but I'm offsetting the gas usage with wood burning, so that should be helping too. The whole thing seems, I think it's rigged.
Yeah, it's a scam.
It's a scam.
There's no way to win. Efficiency is an illusion.
It's an illusion. I turned it down to 55 and I'm paying more. How is this possible? Maybe I should try turning up. I need like 80 degrees in the winter.
Yeah.
And I made it, Rob. I'm in the efficiency zone. Alright, so that is the end of the episode. Sheldon is fine when he's learned to express his frustration.
Yeah. I actually did. It's not an IQ point, but this episode, I don't know why. Every time I watch this episode, I've always wanted to just take the time to calculate how fast he was running as the Flash.
I thought about it, and I'm like, that's kind of a lot of math.
It's really not, because distance equals rate times time. We know they're in Pasadena. We know he's going to the Grand Canyon, so we at least have a ballpark of that distance. We know how fast it takes because we're watching him do it. So all we have to do is calculate the rate to figure out how many miles an hour he's going. So I timed it. I timed him going from Pasadena just to the Grand Canyon.
Assuming it didn't cut anything out. Assuming that was the actual amount of time. Yeah.
Yeah. It was 22 seconds.
22 seconds.
And the distance is about 450 miles. I looked on Google Maps and I used the walk set. I went, you know how you could toggle between car versus airplane versus bike?
Yeah.
I went with the walking one because it seemed like it would be the most straight shot.
Yeah.
So, and I did a little rounding, so I went with 450 miles. So, if it took him 22 seconds to get 450 miles, that means he was traveling at 73,637 miles per hour. Which is significantly slower than the Flash's maximum rate. Because based on the comics, he could actually travel, according to comics, he can travel 13 trillion times faster than the speed of light. Which is really like, how do you even calculate that? How do you even, like...
Is there a plane he can do that in? Like, I'm reminded of The Boys. I've only seen the first 2 seasons, but isn't the guy who's like the Flash, like he runs through somebody?
In the very first, it was like the first 5 minutes of the show. Yeah.
Because if you're going that fast, right, speed times mass equals force. So going that fast, being an average person, weight, you will cause somebody to explode when you hit them.
Yeah. Such a great show. Such a great show. The Boys.
I need to finish it. I liked it. It was one that kind of dropped out after the second season. But
Fine. I think they're gonna do another season of Gen X, and then it's gonna be the final season of The Boys.
It's a good one.
Coming to an end.
It's so edgy.
Dark. It's dark. So dark.
Like I think the last episode I saw, maybe I saw another one, but is Homeland jerking off to the city, like he controls it, and like in the middle of the night he's jerking off on the top of the building. And you're like,
Yep.
so weird. Uh, okay, so 13 trillion times faster than the speed of light, which would mean he goes back in time, right? Because Superman can go back in time by flying fast.
Yeah.
In
The
theory.
Flash can travel through time, and that's what Flashpoint is.
Oh yeah, I think we've talked about Flashpoint. I forget what it was, but I remember hearing about it. Or maybe I just read about it.
The comic is great. The movie with Ezra Miller is not so great.
Not so good.
Yeah,
Oh,
it wasn't the best. It had its moments, but it was not the best.
It was a movie.
That is factual. That is literally true.
That's literally true. All right, so we're on the vanity card, and man, I lucked out on this vanity card. It is just
I forgot to look it up.
it's a picture of Chuck Lorre, or I'm assuming it's Chuck Lorre. He's quite a bit younger than pictures I look up now. In a bathtub, in a big field, and there's a bathtub next to him with a blow-up doll, deflated, and it says "Happy Holidays from the Lorries." And so he's dating.
Well, lucky you.
No, that's all I got. Lucky me.
All right. All right, let's count some points. I'll count the Amazon talk all as one. And I'll go with the animal facts as one, too. So we have 4.
I think I was missing last time because it says now that we are tied 114 to 114. Me being like Sheldon, me not being like Sheldon. This just went up one on each side, so I think I might have miscalculated last episode because something wasn't highlighted, but it should be even now. All the animal talk is one. Yeah. Even though it went backwards a little bit, and then it wavered back into an IQ point.
Anything else to add in this episode?
I was going to say, as I was thinking it, so I wanted to share it, that I don't know where this is going, but we do have Penny's father saying they should date, her expressing she still has emotions, and Bernadette bringing over at the sleepover that what happens when he starts dating someone. So I'm not sure where it's going to go, but I'm hoping it goes, he meets somebody and it becomes a love triangle. Because that's the fair way for it to go, that he's been single and she's dating guys and he's been kind of, he has trouble. So for him to find somebody else, I think it would make the story more interesting and really push, like, hey, maybe you dragged your feet a little too long, Penny, and you might lose him now. So that's where I'm thinking it's going, and it just solidified it this episode when I was thinking about all that. So,
well, I guess we'll just have to stay tuned and find out.
Dun dun dun. And see if Bernadette has yellow fever.
Yeah. That's the more important question.
Yeah.
Well, all right. Thanks, everyone, for listening. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. Subscribe on YouTube. Smash that like button. And email us at theoreticalnonsensepod@gmail.com. And we will see you next time when we discuss Season 4, Episode 12, The Bus Pants Utilization.
See you then.
Thanks for listening. This was Theoretical Nonsense, the Big Bang Theory watch-along podcast. No PhD required. Our intro and outro music is by Alex Grohl. Thanks for listening. I am now officially dumber.
Dumber.